Hi everyone, welcome to Challenge my YouTube channel. My name is Lillian. For those of you who are new here, I talk about business, finance, and life in general. And if that is something that you're looking for, and something you're interested in, look no far, this is where you need to be. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about 8 simple ways of how you can save your money. And step number 1 is record your expenses. So that is the most crucial step around saving your money. You have to know how much you earn, you have to know how much you spend. So the best way to do that is to print out or download all your bank statements, like 3 months bank statement, and then just highlight all your needs and then highlight all your wants. And that way you're then able to track where your money goes. Is it going to the right causes? Is it actually spending it in the right way you're meant to be spending it? Are you actually doing some double payments? For example, you might find that if you have home insurance, you then buy an insurance for your gadgets. So things like that, you might find that you're double paying for things you don't need actually to double pay on, that things can just easily slip through, and you end up spending money that you could easily save. So things like that, you can easily pick them out. So record your expenses. And then step number 2 is include your savings in your budget. So as part of your expenses, it's going to be your savings. So savings are not going to be something that's going to be different. It's part of your expenditure. So you cannot just say, oh, I spend this amount, let's say, on food, roof over my head, transport, clothing. Savings are meant to be in your budget, so you've got to make sure you include them in your budget. Step number 3 is set saving goals. So this could be in the form of short-term, intermediate, or medium goals, and then long-term goals. Short-term goals could be like, let's say you want to pay off a credit card in 6 months' time, and you save up for that. Or you might decide a long-term goals, anything that's going to be between a year to 3 years, where you're saying, let's say you might be wanting to buy, let's say, a dining table or a new sofa, and you're saving up for that. Or long-term goals could be like you're saving up for your education, saving up for a house, saving up for your retirement, or saving up for starting up a business or an investment. So anything that's going to be more than 3 years, so 3 years and above, or 5 years, 10 years, 20-year plan. So anything that's going to be more than 5 years, that will be classed as a long-term goal. So you need to set up your saving goals, like what are you saving up for? So the best way to do this is to go back to the drawing board, have a piece of paper, write down your financial goals, like where do you want to be in the next 3 years, next 5 years, next 10 years. That way, you then decide, okay, if I need to be here in this, in the next 5 years, I need to have, let's say, a house, or I need to be able to start an online business, or I need to start, let's say, saving up for buying, a house that I'm going to be renting out. Like that's going to have that you'll be able to get your rental income or build your portfolio. So you decide on how you're going to do that. Once you've set up your saving goals, it makes it then easier for you to start saving up for all your goals, your short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals. And then that brings us to point number 4, cut your expenditure. So one way that I, try and reduce my expenditure is paying things annually as opposed to direct debits. Here in the UK, when it comes to particularly England, not Scotland, or Northern Ireland or Wales, what happens is, in England, so if you're paying, like, let's say, council tax, so council tax is going to then be divided for the next 10 months. So you set up a direct debit to pay your council tax for the next 10 months. And it's exactly that. Whereas things such as your insurance, or let's say it could be car insurance, home insurance, car finance, if you're paying direct debits, you're paying an extra minimum, an extra income, as opposed to if you had paid that, you know, in one go, it's a lump sum or it's an annual payment. So when it comes to car insurance, home insurance, I always pay annually. You can actually see when you take out an insurance that if you're going to pay direct debit, it tells you you're going to pay that for the next, let's say, 11 months. And for those 11 months, you might find that you need to pay, let's say, £12. And 12 times 11, that's going to give you what? That's going to give you like, what's that? Is it 121, 122? Oh, I can't do the math now. But yeah, so as opposed, let's say if you're going to pay annually, it could be like you're going to be paying £180. You see what I mean? So it's all these little expenditures that you don't realize at the time of you paying that, they're not a lot. But when you add them up, you might find that you spent, you're saved up like, let's say, £100. So I always pay things annually. So the only thing that I don't pay annually is the council tax. But anything else like home insurance, car insurance, um, road tax, all those, I always pay them annually because then I don't have to be, incurring those extra costs. They seem to be like hidden costs because at the time of you paying, it seems like it's a small amount, but when you add it up, it does actually add up and it gives you like a figure that you could actually add on to your savings. So it's trying to ensure that you cut down your expenditures in in direct debits. Another way of cutting your expenditures could be, I did talk about this earlier, um, ensuring your gadgets and things, you know, more than once. So whenever you buy a gadget, you're always told, "Oh, do you want to insure it?" But when you think about it, most people do have home insurance or contents insurance. You're already, saving up for you're already paying contents insurance. Then why would you have to pay for home insurance? Yes, one may argue that it could be lost. Let's say you were on your walkabout and you lose your phone or you lose your AirPods. But there's ways of going around it where you can actually don't have to do it that way. You can actually claim it was in the house. So that's why I've never done it, but I don't see why because they can't prove that. Because if you say you lost it in your house and you can't find it, how are they going to prove it? After all, insurance don't want to pay for for damages or any losses. They always one find a way of not paying. So why am I paying double for guys who've got home insurance or contents insurance? So that's one of cutting your expenses. So step number 5 is to determine your financial goals. So what do you want to do? Do you want to pay off your mortgage early? Are you going to be making those overpayments, or are you wanting to you save up for starting another business? Are you wanting to have multiple sources of income? Do you want to pay off your debt? Have you got a credit card? Have you got a loan you took out from the bank? Whatever the case may be, you have to determine your financial priorities, and that way, that helps you to then to shift your focus onto making sure that you're determined, you're doing what you need to. Whenever you make an overpayment, let's say on your credit card or your debt, it could be a loan or your mortgage, that then brings down the time of where or of how long you're going to take to pay off your debt. So making sure that you're you're making that overpayment such that you try and that big loan. So try and make sure that you determine your financial priorities because they're all different for everybody. I do have a friend who's paid off their mortgage in full, and their financial priorities cannot be the same as me who's still got a mortgage. They cannot be the same. So her priorities are completely different. She's building up her portfolio where she's buying properties and investing in all these different things. So it's trying to determine what your financial priorities, because they're going to be different for each and every person. So to figure out what your financial priorities are, it will be dependent on what you want to do in life and where you want to be financially and socially and all those things. So yeah, point number 6 is pick the right tools is basically around savings. So for anybody who lives in the UK, we've got what we've got. We've got what is called ISAs, individual savings accounts. It could be a cash ISA. It could be an investment ISA. Sorry, investment ISA. So with the cash ISAs, I tend to use the because you could have two at the same time. So with a cash ISA, each and every individual gets £20,000, you don't have to pay any. So individual savings accounts, so basically each individual has 20,000 tax-free amount. So you don't have to pay, if you're saving up to £20,000, it's tax-free for every individual. So having that allowance, you just have to maximize it. Not many people can actually do that, but if you can, then by all means use it. So for my short-term goals, I use the cash ISAs. And then for my long-term goals, I use the investment ISAs. So the difference is with an investment ISA, you're willing to lose that money. So that is your risk appetite. So the higher risk appetite, the higher you're going to be able to invest. So I take the opportunity where I use that £20,000 where you could actually use to have that tax allowance. So I can save up 20,000 and it's all tax free. I won't get charged for it. It's there. But like I said, if it's an investment ISA, it means that if, let's say, I invested in a stock and it didn't work out well, I'm going to lose that money. So that's the only difference. So having these particular tools that you can use, you have to utilize them and maximize them to the fullest. So always try and see what tools are out there that you can use for, to suit whatever your financial goals are going to be. So it's all dependent on what you want to do. Again, you have to have a goal. You cannot just, decide to do whatever you want to do, because that way you're going to lose track. You have to have a plan of what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it, and what tools you're going to use. So I always use cash ISA. I always use ISAs. It's one way, not always, but it's one way you can actually try and invest your money, try and save and limit those expenses. So go and look into it, and you don't have to be a member of a certain bank for you to be able to have an ISA in that bank. You can have an ISA in whatever bank you want, or whatever financial provider that is available. So I always do that. I've got a cash ISA, and I've got a cash ISA, and I've got investment ISA, which you can have. And don't quote me on this, but I do believe if you're going to have two ISAs, they've got to be with the same provider. It could have changed, but I think I remember reading on it, and it has to be with the same provider. So yeah. Another step is make savings automatic. When you make savings automatic, it's so much easier. You don't have to. It makes it easy in the sense that you don't have to miss any savings payment. So if you set up a direct debit, it makes it so much, because it's automatic. You don't have to think about it. It just goes out of your account and it goes wherever it needs to go, as opposed to you to physically moving that money, because things could happen and you forget to do that, and before you know it, you've not saved up what you wanted to save up for, and then that makes you lag behind in your savings. So that's another way of doing it, because with me, that's another thing that I do. So all the savings are done automatically. They just have to go off. So I set up a direct debit of when they have to go off, and whatever remains in my account. So what I did was, so we always get paid on either the 25th or 26th. I've got two jobs. So on the 26th, I've got one job where I get paid, and then on the 25th, I've got another job where I get paid. So I speak so fast sometimes. So payments go out on the first of every month, right? And then I give a leeway. Sometimes they, take a few days. It might go off. It might go off like on the 5th day of the month. So whatever remains in my account is for me to spend. That's how I do it. Don't know how people do it. You can share how you do it, but that's how I do it. So every first of the month, payments go out. Whatever remains in my account is for me to do whatever I want to do with it. But all those payments include all the goals that I've set out: entertainment. That includes eating out, shopping. Whatever remains, just like miscellaneous. Like I can do whatever I want to with that money, or I can invest it, or I can buy some, another pair of shoes. I don't even feel guilty about it, because that money is there for me to use. So I've done all my direct debits when it comes to, saving up for, the emergency fund, all of that. And like I said, whatever remains is for me to spend. So I don't even feel guilty. And it's something that I started to do because I always felt guilty, like, oh, I should be saving that money. I should be doing that money. I should be doing this with that money. But once I automated all my savings and the payments go out, I now don't feel guilty whatsoever. So yeah, And then the last point is watch your savings grow. So they could be short-term, goals or savings, or it could be a long-term savings, saving up for a house. So this way, you're able then to determine if you're going to be able to reach your goal sooner rather than later, or you need to to rejig and say, okay, I'm making this amount of money, I'm able to save up more. Why can't I actually increase on the amount of money that I'm saving up for my long-term goal? So you see that money growing, and I check my money quarterly to see where I need to rejig, what I need to change. So identify any problems that may arise and all of that. So seeing that money grow makes a difference. It makes a difference in how you want to. You might need to rejig your plan along the way. Don't have to stick to the plan. It's not written in stone. So you just have to decide if it's going to be sensible for you to change that. So you might find that you've set up 6 months to pay up for, let's say, a credit card, and you find that you actually paid it off within 4 months. And what happens to the other 6 months? What do you do with that money? Do I then, change that to saving up for a long time goal like your emergency fund? Continue to build your emergency fund, for if it's for 6 months, and then you continue that to save up, and then before you know it, you'll save up for, let's say, for another 8 months worth of expenses to cover off your emergency fund. So things like that, watch your money grow. So those are my 8 simple steps on how you can save your money. Like I always say, visualize your higher self, show up as them, and be the change that you want to see. Thank you for watching. See you again. Bye.